This thing, in my opinion, is simply the most badass looking bike that I have in the lineup. And I know a few of you probably don't agree with that, but it just looks so World Cup-y. And, well, I like that. I like that a lot. I don't like that I just overexposed all of that. That's fine. Anyway, the topic, the subject, the project that I want to tackle here today is again one of those things that I'm like oddly nervous of because I've never done it before, but as is explained in every tutorial, it's really not that difficult. And it's another one of those mountain bike specific things that I've just allowed to be foreign to me for far too long. And that is servicing a dropper post on your mountain bike. Or, you know, if it's more your flavor, gravel bike. One of these days, one of the gravel bikes in here will have a dropper post, and I would have had to learn to do it then. As a matter of fact, it'll probably be this bike, let's be honest. But I digress. Today, I want to learn the inner workings of the 1UP V2 dropper post and get it working perfect again. But first, we need to talk about why, of course. I wouldn't just go ahead and do this for like no reason. That is not my style. I don't fix things unless they're like kind of broken. So this past Saturday while we were riding, I'm gonna call it an issue that I've been having with this thing, really started to become a little bit more annoying than it had in the past. And that is just the fact that dropper goes down. When you go to put it back up, it goes up a little ways, but it still has a ways to go. That's actually better than it had been acting, but it was acting worse in the cold. So what I have been doing while riding is drop her down, go over whatever it is you need to go over, then get to a pedal section again, seat go up, and then it's like, oh, that's still pretty low. Squeeze my legs together, pull that up the rest of the way, and then keep pedaling. As I'm sure you can imagine, through technical sections, not the most efficient way to ride a bike. And just while I was washing it today, which was a couple days late, I noticed that it just seemed a little dry coming out of the actuator, like pneumatic area. So because I now have taken apart a rear shock for a dual suspension bike, fairly competent and comfortable with that process, I assume this is going to be fairly similar. It's probably time for a proper, maybe no parts replacement service and re-grease anyway. What I bet is actually really wrong with it is it just needs a little bit of air put in it. I bet that's like all it needs. But staying on top of maintenance and knowing how to do this so that it always stays in tip-top form is probably a worthwhile endeavor to go through. I think one thing worth mentioning, because it came up in the comments of the Doug video with the Redwood, is the subject of the ability to internally route your dropper cable. This Schwinn Moab 1, I would say, probably doesn't have it like written anywhere that it's like internal cable routing for dropper post compatible. But what I do with all of them, including the felt, and what I will do for the Poseidon to keep everything internal, not have to have an exposed actuator on the outside, is I just run it through the access holes at the top of the down tube, run it all the way in, and then just fight with the cable end and get it to route through the like heat relief holes that are drilled in tubes and just make it go around this kind of like pretty drastic bend. But the cable housing itself does a pretty good job of keeping friction low, and you can run your internal cable routing just like I have here. That's exactly what's going on here. All you have to do to make it happen is give up a little bit of your sanity for a couple of hours. Now, 1UP on their website for the instructions on how to do this say this should take about 20 minutes, which I translate more to this will take an hour and a half, possibly two, I might break something. You know, the opposite of when Google tells you it takes 5 hours to drive somewhere, but it really only takes 3.5. Notice how this is kind of dry, especially down there. That's kind of the last little bit of the dropper that doesn't really want to come up. So I want it to be nice and slippery again so that it wants to work the way it should. How loose is this supposed to be? This comes out super easy. This 14 mil doesn't fit. It says right here 14 mil, but number 2, 15 mil. Undo the actuator. These are all looser than I would have thought. Oh. So far, I still know where everything goes. So I'm going to use rubbing alcohol like you always would for cleaning off kind of delicate parts like this to get all contaminants off of it so that we can reapply some nice new light grease. Put it back together and grease it, I guess. They say to do this with a toothbrush, but I've definitely brushed my teeth with my fingers before, so I figure it's probably fine. This is pretty quick and pretty easy. The moment of truth. The thing I didn't want to see without having done the service. What is the current pressure of this 1-up dropper post? And is it what was causing the inability to continue to rise? Should be between 250 and 300 PSI. We are at 110. Boom, done. And the beauty is it's all routed already. All I have to do is put it back in. That is super satisfying. But not only is the fact that it's now working exactly the way it's supposed to satisfying, knowing exactly how this thing works by taking it completely apart and being able to observe each individual moving component on their own and how they all interact with each other is equally as satisfying. I remember there was a time someone was asking about mountain bikes, and I had brought up that like most mountain bikes these days, they have dropper posts. And they're like, well, what's that? I'm like, well, you push a lever, it makes the seat go down. That way you can throw the bike in front of you. You don't have to worry about it between your legs. And then once you're done that obstacle, you can push that lever again. The seat will come right back up to the height that you like to ride at. Eyes lit up. Question, how does that work? I don't know. I think some use like hydraulics and others are pneumatic, like air, but I've never seen where air would go into one. It's seriously amazing how truly simple the design of this actually is. Like just 2 cylinders that will collapse between themselves, and in between both there's a long air piston that keeps pushing them apart. When you push the lever, it allows it to come down. Push the lever again, that compressed air pushes it back up. Before seeing how it all kind of goes together, it was all just kind of magic. I'm super glad I did this today. How does the video sound? I'm using the new microphone today on the old camera. And I don't think there's any clicking, which is a little bit annoying that I bought a new camera.